Embattled New York City Mayor Eric Adams' days seem to be numbered as the calls for him to step down grow by the day. Adams faces charges related to bribery, campaign finance, and conspiracy offences after allegedly cozying up to Turkish officials in exchange for luxury flights and campaign donations. And the fallout has made headlines nationwide because the New York City mayor kissed the ring, taking a trip down to Mar-a-Lago to win Trump's favour. Adams has instructed his top commissioners to avoid criticising Trump and interfering with federal immigration enforcement. And in return, Donald Trump's DOJ stopped the charges against Adams just 2 months before his trial, sparking outrage. While Eric Adams has denied the charges and stated that he will serve his full term, one man is ready to step up: New York City public advocate Jumaane Williams. Williams is first in line to succeed Adams and become acting mayor should he step down or be removed. As public advocate, he's emerged as one of Eric Adams' harshest critics in City Hall. The progressive Democrat has been a champion of affordable housing, immigrant rights, and police accountability. 3 key areas where Eric Adams has faced some of the most scrutiny. Joining me now to discuss Eric Adams and the future of New York City is the man himself, public advocate Jumaane Williams. Jumaane Williams, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Why do you believe Mayor of New York Eric Adams should resign?
Well, let's be clear. One, I haven't officially said the exact string of words, but I understand why it's associated with me. And, it is what it is. I am very, very clear that this mayor cannot lead this city based on everything that's going on. And I also want to clarify, I would step into the position temporarily until there's an election where the people of the city will decide who their mayor is. But, at this point, it's not even up to interpretation what's going on. Literally, the DOJ wrote in their letter that there's a quid pro quo and the mayor has to do what the Trump White House says, or they can bring the charges back. And what that means is that literally you are now a deputy of the White House and not a mayor of New York City. And last, I just want to always say how painful that is to say as a Black man who's a citywide elected official, another Black man who's an even more powerful citywide elected official. It hurts to see. I also just have a job to do, and that's making sure I'm focused on the 8.3 million New Yorkers who I represent.
He looks like a hostage, Eric Adams.
He definitely looks like a man in crisis. When you saw that Fox interview,
Yes.
hostage was probably a term that you would use based on what we saw happening. And I wish he would look within himself and stop lashing out at others on decisions that he made. Whether or not you believe that it should be in a federal court is different than a long list of continually bad, poor decisions that led us here. And look within about decisions he made and whether or not he really can govern this city. You just can't under these conditions. And New Yorkers are suffering because of some poor decisions.
Just to go back to your first answer to my first question, sorry to be a pedant, but why haven't you said the words Eric Adams should resign?
I know I try to be as responsible as I can with my words, particularly being in the line of succession. And so I've been very careful the whole line about how I describe what I think should happen, how I talk about it. They've gotten, more intense as the days has passed, and they became a fever pitch after that DOJ letter and the Daniel Sassoon letter, literally in black and white, describing everything that all of us said was probably happened and was concerned about right there on the paper. And so once that happened, it was quite clear that you had to use some strong language and really say that this is not a mayor that we can have right now at this moment in time. And I want everybody who has the tools that they have, from voters to the governor, to try their best to use those tools so that we have different leadership in the city.
The alternative to Eric Adams resigning is, of course, the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, a fellow Democrat, removing him. She has the power to do that. She stated that she won't use her executive power to remove him from office, citing the chaos that such a move could bring to the city. Do you agree with her decision? And what kind of message does that send to New Yorkers?
I do believe that if you have to step in twice, this is the second time, I think she called it guardrails now, that she had to put something in place or try to deal with the situation with the mayor. That just shows you that we have a problem with the mayor, and a very serious one. And I think she should think about all the tools that she had. I would say if she went that route, I think people don't understand that it's just not a removal. There is actually a process, and that there would be a charge that he would defend himself with, and he has every right to do that. I want to make it clear, even to this day, wherever the charge is, he should defend himself. But that is a lengthy process, and it may be one where questions could be asked and questions should be answered. So, it's something that should be considered. But that's something that she has to decide for herself. I will say, going through the year based on where we are, based on the decisions that the mayor is making on behalf of the White House, and literally having it in place why he's making those decisions, are really harmful to New York City. And again, from the voters to the governor, everybody should be considering how best to use their tools so we can get the leadership we need right now.
Do you, Jumaane Williams, feel like you are prepared to take over the role as mayor should Adams step down tomorrow or be removed? How would your administration, in the short time you'll be in office, there would be a special election, how would it differ from Adams' administration? Are you ready to go?
Well, if you're a public advocate, that's something you have to prepare for. Something we made sure we took very seriously, particularly beginning from last September, when the mayor's council resigned on a Saturday night at 10:30. That is usually a sign that something is wrong. And so we gathered the folks we need to gather, reached out just to have a plan in place in case something happens. It's not something you want to happen because it means the city is not going in the direction you want. But in case it does, we are absolutely prepared. And I'm very clear. My job there is then not to necessarily to run, is to provide some stability in government and some continuity in government. We want to make sure that New Yorkers are aware that that continuity exists in the charter. We're losing a great number of deputy mayors that are very good at their jobs. And so we would try our best to retain them. But it's really just spending months making sure that the hundreds of thousands of public sector workers who come to work every day understand there's a leader there that sees them and really just provide some stability to make sure snow's removed, 911 is answered, 311, which is information here in New York City, is answered, and that government is working on behalf of the people. So it's really about stability and continuity. If there's a special election, there may not be, depending when it might happen, but it's really to take us through the year and let the voters decide who they want as a new leader for the city.
I've got to ask, CBS News have confirmed that the businessman accused of arranging illegal donations to Adams also contributed $10,000 to your 2022 gubernatorial campaign, another $2,100 as recently as 2024. He's not considered to be a criminal, we should be clear. But how do you respond to that from CBS News? Why should New Yorkers trust that you'll be different?
Well, people donate to a lot of folks. And so when we got that information, we immediately made sure we did research on it. And what we said, if someone tells us that that was a donation that was illegal, we'll immediately return it. We haven't gotten that information. I also want to point out, anybody that you look into, there might be a question here or there. What you won't find is a pattern in practice of very poor decisions. And I think that's what the problem here is for me. It's not one thing, this thing or that thing. It is a consistent pattern and practice long-term of very poor decisions and the inability to look within and say, hey, I made a mistake here. Here's how I'm going to correct it. That has brought us to this point, and that is a very bad place to be for New York City.
You have been outspoken against the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration. You've said Eric Adams, quote, uses our fears and biases against us when scapegoating migrants for New York's issues. I happen to agree with you, but according to recent polling from the Manhattan Institute, 54% of voters in New York believe the city's current immigration policies are too soft. Are you out of sync with everyday New Yorkers?
I think what has happened is New Yorkers are responding to the pain that they're feeling and what's being proposed as causing that pain. And people like Eric Adams, Donald Trump, even Andrew Cuomo, which is another conversation, are good at misusing those fears. And so when they're told that this is about violent criminals, or for somehow, in Eric Adams' case, we spent $8 billion on the migrants, not on you, that's painful unless you unpack it and you say that $8 billion has always been here, New Yorkers. You should ask Eric Adams, why didn't they spend it on you? Don't blame the migrants. And also, when people understand that sanctuary cities have never, ever protected violent criminals. They could have always coordinated, and that's all sanctuary cities is about. It's about coordination, coordinated with local law enforcement for people who have been convicted of violent crimes, like rape and murder, always. What's happening now with the Lake and Riley Act and what's happening with apparently the mayor's blessing, is a 15-year-old who's accused, and I want to be clear, not even convicted, accused of stealing a pack of M&Ms can be deported. And when people are presented with that,
Yeah,
they actually change what they're thinking. But the
very good
questions
point.
they're asked and the context they're put in, you can understand why they respond the way they do, because they're hurting and they have a right to be angry at well, not getting what they needed. I just want them to be angry at the right people.
You mentioned his name, Andrew Cuomo, disgraced former governor of New York State, apparently planning to throw his hat into the ring any day now in the New York mayoral race. What was your response when you heard he might be running for mayor? Is that a wise move for Democrats to return to the Cuomo fold?
You know, it's interesting. I believe we often confuse bullying with leadership and competency, and that's one of the reasons I think that confusion has got us where we are in the White House. I also don't think it's a good thing to replace someone who's in crisis right now with someone who left in crisis and scandal. And I again believe people are looking for someone to help them get out of the situation we're in. So I understand why they may think Cuomo is that person. My hope is that folks, as they begin to remember, 'cause sometimes our memory eludes us, how harmful he was to New York City, how harmful he was to vulnerable communities, how harmful he was to Black communities that seem to have a affinity to him, and I understand why. Again, he abuses people's trauma against them. He uses them against them. He uses their trauma against them, and that happens in that community as well. But understanding and remembering the decisions he made that caused people's lives and their livelihoods, I'm hoping people will really see that bullying and someone who left in scandal is not what we need to get us out of where we are.
Would you run for mayor?
I have been very clear about things that I wanted to run for in the past. I'm not really coy about it. I have no plans to run for mayor, and that's not my intention. Right now, I'm running for re-election as the public advocate of the city of New York. I'm honored that there are a lot of folks who have been, trying to push me to do so, but that's not in the foreseeable future right now.
So who is your choice for New York mayor?
Well, we've so far said that we're going to we have ranked choice voting in our city, and Comptroller Brad Lander, we've already made public, will be my number one or second choice. There is a lot of good people who are running in this race, in my opinion, talking and working with all of them to figure out. I am excited about the prospect of Speaker Adrienne Adams, the Speaker of the City Council, of jumping in, and I'd love to see what she's going to bring to the table, particularly as we have someone who is who we know well, like Cuomo, and who is, I guess you have a bully in the White House and folks want one in City Hall, but it's not going to end the way folks think it is, just as people are learning that bully in the White House doesn't just bully the people you don't like. But we're excited about what she may bring and what a mayoral race for her will look like.
On that note, we'll have to leave it there. Jumaane Williams, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. Peace and blessings to you and everyone watching.
Appreciate it. Did you like this video? Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel and turn on notifications. For exclusive content and to support our independent, unfiltered journalism, head over to zeteo.com. Your support matters.